Stay down where trash like you belongs, the officer spits, driving his knee into her spine. Rain slashes across the luxury car's hood as officers Reynolds and Benson corner the black woman. Reynolds slams her face first against the vehicle. Her designer purse crashes to the pavement, contents scattering in dirty puddles. Driving in Oakwood while black? Big mistake, Reynolds snarls, striking her shoulders with his baton. Crack. The sound echoes through empty streets. Please, I'm just... Her words vanish as Benson forces her to her knees in filthy water. Shut up! Hands where we can see them! Benson shoves her head down. The woman's breath catches. Her suit worth more than their monthly salaries soaks through instantly. Her police academy ring glints under streetlights as she braces herself. Her government phone slides from her jacket, screen illuminating with an incoming call. Commissioner Wallace! Neither officer notices. They're too busy laughing. Have you ever seen someone abuse their power before realizing who they were dealing with? Share your story below. Their smiles will vanish tomorrow when they discover whose ribs they just bruised. Captain Alexis Thompson arrives in Westridge to take command of the troubled 5th Precinct. Her reputation precedes her. After years cleaning up corrupt departments across the country, law enforcement circles know her simply as the Reformer. She stands in her hotel room, unpacking her crisp uniforms while reviewing personnel files on her laptop. The commissioner's email glows on her screen. The 5th has the highest number of excessive force complaints in the state. We need your expertise. Thompson closes the file with a sigh. She's seen this pattern before. She decides to spend her first week observing undercover. Knowledge is power, and she needs to see her officers' true behavior, not the performance they'll give once they know who she is. Thompson changes into civilian clothes, dark jeans, a simple blouse, and a tailored jacket. Professional, but unremarkable. Her plan is methodical. Drive through different neighborhoods at night, taking notes on patrol patterns, response times, and officer interactions. She pays particular attention to how officers treat citizens in wealthy versus low-income areas. Meanwhile, officers Reynolds and Benson cruise through Oakwood's tree-lined streets in their patrol car. The affluent neighborhood has an unspoken policy. Any suspicious individuals who don't fit the profile of residents get stopped, questioned, removed if necessary. Another quiet night in paradise, Reynolds says, finishing his coffee. Then he spots it. A black sedan moving slowly down Maple Avenue, occasionally stopping. Check it out, he nudges Benson. Someone's casing houses. Through their windshield, they watch Thompson's vehicle. A black woman driving alone, occasionally pulling over to make notes on her phone. Definitely not from around here, Benson agrees, already flipping on the dash cam. Let's see what she's up to. Thompson notices the patrol car in her rearview mirror. She recognizes the subtle stalking pattern they're following her, waiting for any minor infraction. She pulls into a legal parking spot to finish her observations, knowing what comes next. The patrol car's lights flash on immediately. Thompson remains composed, her hand hovering over her credentials in her purse. If necessary, she'll identify herself. But part of her wonders what these officers do when there's no badge to stop them. Reynolds exits the patrol car, hand already resting on his holster. Benson flanks the other side of Thompson's vehicle. Their posture broadcasts aggression, not protection. "Get out of the vehicle now!" Reynolds shouts, unholstering his taser without provocation. Thompson raises her hands where the officers can see them. She complies with measured precision, opening her car door slowly and stepping out into the rain. Water immediately soaks through her clothes, but her expression remains controlled. "Good evening, officers. Is there a problem?" Her voice is steady, professional. Reynolds circles her like a predator. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" "I'm new in town, just familiarizing myself with different areas." Thompson maintains eye contact, her posture non-threatening. Benson snorts. "Yeah, right. People like you don't just familiarize themselves with Oakwood unless they're looking for something that doesn't belong to them. The coded language isn't subtle. Thompson catches every implication, every microaggression. She's investigated dozens of officers like these men who view their badge as license to harass rather than protect. I assure you I'm not doing anything illegal. I was simply making notes about the community. I'm looking to relocate for work. ID, now. Reynolds cuts her off, his hand still hovering near his weapon. Thompson nods, reaching slowly toward her purse on the passenger seat. My identification is in my... Her words end in a gasp as Benson grabs her arm and yanks her backward. Hands where we can see them, he shouts, slamming her against the car. The impact knocks her government phone and wallet from her jacket pocket. They clatter to the wet pavement. That's my identification right there. Thompson points calmly toward her fallen wallet. If you'll just... Reynolds kicks the wallet away, sending it skidding under the car. We'll get to that. First, you're going to tell us what you're really doing here. The rain intensifies, streaming down Thompson's face. She notices curtains twitching in nearby houses, residents watching but not intervening. Cataloging this detail, she continues her mental documentation of every violation occurring. I work in law enforcement, she states plainly, hoping to de-escalate. The officers exchange glances before erupting in laughter. Yeah, security guard maybe, Reynolds mocks. Watching the perfume counter at Macy's? Benson joins in. Probably just watching too many cop shows, thinks she knows something. Thompson doesn't respond to the taunts. Instead, she memorizes their badge numbers, name tags, unit designations, every procedural violation, every biased comment. Her mind works like a camera, recording it all with clinical precision. Hands behind your back, Benson orders, unholstering handcuffs with unnecessary force. The rain pours harder now, turning the elegant neighborhood into a blurred watercolor of streetlights and shadows. Thompson feels the cold metal of handcuffs bite into her wrists as Benson fastens them too tight, deliberately too tight. On your knees, Reynolds commands, shoving her shoulder. Thompson hesitates. That's not necessary. I'm complying fully. Reynolds responds by pushing her down. Thompson's knees hit the wet pavement hard, sending a shock of pain up her legs. Water immediately soaks through her pants. The officers tower over her, flashlights aimed directly at her eyes, creating a disorienting glare. Please retrieve my identification, Thompson requests calmly. You'll see I'm not a threat. Reynolds strikes her shoulder with his baton, not hard enough to leave serious injury, but enough to hurt, enough to humiliate. You don't make demands here. Thompson flinches from the pain but keeps her composure. Rain streams down her face, mixing with a single tear she refuses to acknowledge. She catalogs the assault in her mental record: unprovoked physical strike, excessive restraint, forced uncomfortable position. Benson radios dispatch with her license plate. Run this plate for me. Vehicle possibly stolen. The radio crackles after a moment. Plate comes back to an A. Thompson, registered 3 years ago in Virginia. No flags. Instead of acknowledging their mistake, the officers exchange suspicious glances. Probably using fake registration, Reynolds mutters, loud enough for Thompson to hear. Or the car's stolen. A second patrol car slows as it passes. Sergeant Walsh rolls down his window, surveys the scene of the black woman kneeling handcuffed in the rain. Everything under control here? He asks casually. Thompson looks up, hoping for intervention from a superior officer. Sir, I've done nothing wrong. These officers... We're good, Reynolds interrupts. Just dealing with a suspicious person. Possible vehicle theft. Walsh nods, barely glancing at Thompson. Need any assistance with the suspect? Nah, we got this, Benson replies with a smirk. Walsh drives away without further question. Thompson watches him go, adding another name to her mental record. Supervisory neglect. Failure to intervene. The rain plasters Thompson's clothes to her body. She shivers involuntarily as Benson circles around her, flashlight beam traveling over her with inappropriate slowness. Cold, are we? He taunts. Should have thought about that before you came to the wrong neighborhood. As Thompson shifts position to reduce the pressure on her knees, her jacket sleeve rides up. A small, elegant ring on her right hand catches the flashlight beam, the distinctive design of the National Police Academy graduation ring. Benson notices, pauses. "Where'd you get that ring? Pawn shop?" "I earned it," Thompson replies quietly. "Playing dress-up as a cop won't help you," he sneers. "Probably just some fake costume jewelry." Thompson remains silent, conserving her energy. Through the rain, she spots a framed photo mounted on the patrol car's dashboard, the 5th Precinct's team photo. She recognizes several faces from her briefing files, including officers with multiple complaints buried by internal affairs. Her eyes narrow slightly as she memorizes each face tomorrow. They'll be sitting across from her desk. The precinct station buzzes with fluorescent lights and routine chaos. Thompson sits handcuffed to a metal bench in the processing area, her expensive suit now stained and damp. Officers pass by, some curious, others indifferent. None offer assistance. 2 hours pass before anyone processes her paperwork. Thompson uses this time to observe everything: shift changes, security protocols, how officers interact with different detainees. She notes which officers laugh at inappropriate jokes, which ones look away from mistreatment, which few show signs of discomfort at their colleagues' behavior. "Name?" the processing officer finally asks, not looking up from his computer. "Alexis Thompson," she answers calmly. "Address?" "I'm relocating, currently staying at the Westridge Hotel." The officer looks up now, skeptical. "That's a pretty expensive place for someone who was casing houses." "I wasn't casing houses," Thompson corrects him, "and I'd like my phone call now." The officer laughs. "You'll get it when we're ready. We're backed up tonight." Thompson catalogs another violation: unnecessary delay of due process rights. 3 more hours pass before they grant her call. By then, it's nearly 2 a.m. At the phone, Thompson dials not a lawyer, but Police Commissioner Wallace. When he answers, she speaks in the coded language they established during her hiring. "Commissioner, the Sunset audit has begun ahead of schedule," she says calmly. "I've encountered several quality control issues requiring immediate documentation. Code Amber." Wallace immediately understands she's conducting an unplanned integrity test. "Location?" he asks simply. "5th Precinct, Officers Reynolds and Benson." "Understood. Maintain protocol. Extraction within the hour." Thompson hangs up, feeling the desk sergeant's curious gaze. He's noticed something different about her: her composure, her precise language, the way she stands despite her disheveled appearance. Uncertainty flickers across his face. 30 minutes later, a call comes in. The sergeant takes it, then looks at Thompson with new confusion. "You're being released. No charges." No apology, no explanation, just a sudden reversal that raises no alarms for anyone except the increasingly uncomfortable desk sergeant. They return her belongings in a plastic bag: her wallet, her phone, her dignity they keep. Thompson walks out into the pre-dawn darkness, calls a rideshare, and returns to her hotel. Once inside her room, she peels off her wet, muddied clothes. Purple bruises are already forming where the baton struck her shoulder, where the handcuffs bit into her wrists, where her knees hit the pavement. She photographs each injury methodically. Then she opens her laptop and begins typing every detail still crystal clear in her mind, every name, every violation, every witness. She accesses secure files using her federal credentials. There they are: previous complaints against officers Reynolds and Benson. 6 excessive force allegations in 2 years, all mysteriously closed without action. Reports buried by internal affairs. Witnesses who suddenly became unavailable. Thompson notices something else. The pattern extends beyond these 2 officers. Sergeant Walsh appears in 3 of the buried reports. The current precinct captain signed off on each dismissal. It's systemic. It's calculated. It's exactly what she was sent to fix. Thompson touches the bruise on her shoulder, wincing slightly. Then her expression hardens into resolve. "I wasn't planning on starting this way," she whispers to herself, "but they've just given me exactly what I need." The officers who assaulted her don't realize they've just handed their new captain a perfect case for departmental overhaul. Morning shift at the 5th Precinct. Officers Reynolds and Benson walk in, coffee in hand, laughing as they recount last night's events to their colleagues. "So there she is, designer clothes getting soaked, trying to tell us she's some kind of cop," Reynolds snickers, miming Thompson's kneeling position. "You should have seen her face when I gave her a little love tap with the baton." Several officers laugh appreciatively. Benson adds, "She was definitely casing houses. Probably has a whole crew waiting to hit Oakwood once she maps out the security systems." "Did she resist?" another officer asks, eyes gleaming with interest. "Not exactly," Reynolds admits. "But she had that attitude, you know? Acting all superior like she had rights or something." More laughter ripples through the group. Only Officer Rivera, a rookie still in his probationary period, remains silent. His discomfort is evident, though he doesn't speak up. Across town, Thompson sits in Commissioner Wallace's office, her bruises now darkly visible against her skin. She slides a tablet across his desk with her complete report. "Jesus," Wallace mutters, scrolling through photos of her injuries. "I knew the 5th had problems, but this is why you hired me," Thompson finishes for him. "What happened to me isn't unique. It's their standard operating procedure." Wallace reviews her documentation, meticulous, comprehensive, damning. "You weren't supposed to start until next week. We should file charges immediately." Thompson shakes her head. "Not yet. This gives us something better, authentic evidence of their behavior when they think no one's watching. I want to use this as the foundation for structural reform, not just punish 2 officers." Wallace studies her with newfound respect. "What's your plan?" "I need 3 days. Let me trace the complaint patterns, identify which officers can be salvaged and which need to go. We'll need to replace at least half the command structure." The commissioner nods slowly. "You have full authority. Whatever resources you need." Thompson returns to her hotel that afternoon to find her door slightly ajar. She pauses, then pushes it open carefully. Nothing appears stolen, but her belongings have been subtly disturbed. Someone has searched her room. She checks the hotel's security system on her tablet. No official entry recorded. But there's a gap in the hallway camera footage, 8 minutes, precisely when she was meeting with Wallace. Her rental car information from last night's arrest would have revealed her location. The message is clear. Intimidation. They're watching her. Thompson makes a call on her secure line. "I need a complete background check on Officers James Reynolds and Thomas Benson. Also Sergeant Michael Walsh. Priority level 1. She ends the call and stands at her window, looking out at the city she's been tasked with protecting, even from some of its protectors. An anonymous text arrives on her phone. "Back off, or next time you won't walk away." Thompson stares at the threatening text, screenshots it, then adds it to her growing evidence file. Rather than intimidating her, the message only confirms the depth of the corruption she's facing. She accelerates her timetable. This afternoon, she visits the Internal Affairs Division of the 5th Precinct, presenting herself not as the incoming captain, but as a civilian consultant reviewing complaint procedures. The IA Lieutenant, Barnes, welcomes her with practiced politeness. "The commissioner asked me to evaluate your processes," Thompson explains, offering falsified credentials that identify her as a civilian oversight specialist. "I'd like to see how citizen complaints are handled from intake to resolution." "Of course," Barnes agrees too quickly. "We take community concerns very seriously." Thompson watches his eyes carefully. "I'm particularly interested in excessive force complaints over the past 18 months. Something flickers in Barnes's expression wariness. Perhaps guilt. "Those files would require special clearance." "Which I have," Thompson counters smoothly, sliding over the commissioner's authorization. Reluctantly, Barnes provides access to the digital records. As Thompson reviews the files, a disturbing pattern emerges. Complaints don't just disappear, they're systematically dismantled. Witness statements altered. Body camera footage conveniently corrupted. Medical reports minimized. And it's not just Reynolds and Benson. 10 officers appear repeatedly in buried complaints. All remain on active duty. All received commendations for proactive policing. Meanwhile, across town, officers Reynolds and Benson grow increasingly paranoid about the woman they detained. Their usual confidence has transformed into nervous energy. She said she worked in law enforcement, Reynolds reminds his partner as they patrol. What if she was telling the truth? So what? Benson scoffs, but uncertainty edges his voice. Nobody's going to believe some random black woman over us. Reynolds isn't convinced. We should run her name through the system. See what comes up. They convince Sergeant Walsh to approve an unauthorized background check, a federal database search using Thompson's driver's license information from her arrest. The results are incomplete but troubling. Alexis Thompson, former military police, current law enforcement credentials in the federal system. The specific agency is restricted, which only increases their unease. She could be internal affairs, Walsh mutters, rubbing his face. Or worse, Justice Department. We didn't do anything wrong, Benson insists, though his voice lacks conviction. She was suspicious. We followed procedure. You struck her with your baton, Walsh reminds him. Was that in your report? Silence falls between them. We need to make sure she drops this, Reynolds finally says. Otherwise, we're all exposed. From her unmarked car across the street, Thompson photographs the 3 men through her telephoto lens. She's been tracking patrol patterns, noting which officers deviate from assigned routes, which ones target specific demographics. She notices Officer Rivera consistently breaking from the aggressive patterns of his colleagues. While other officers cluster around minority neighborhoods, Rivera maintains his assigned routes, treats all civilians with the same respectful demeanor regardless of appearance. Thompson makes a note in her file. Potential ally officer David Rivera. Whoever she is, Sergeant Walsh tells Reynolds, she's connected the commissioner's office just called asking questions about her detention. The next morning, Thompson returns to Oakwood. This time, she makes no attempt to conceal her presence. She parks her car legally, steps out with a professional camera, and begins openly documenting police interactions. She photographs a patrol car stopping a Latino teenager on a bicycle. The officer's aggressive stance. The unnecessary pat-down. The teenager's resigned expression, he's been through this before. 20 minutes later, Reynolds and Benson spot her. Their patrol car screeches to a halt beside her. Reynolds exits first, hand already resting on his weapon. You again, he growls. What do you think you're doing? Thompson continues taking photos, her camera now capturing their approach. Documenting public servants in public spaces, perfectly legal activity. Benson steps forward, deliberately invading her personal space. You're interfering with police business. That's obstruction of justice. I'm standing on a public sidewalk observing from a legal distance, Thompson counters calmly. There's relevant case law establishing my right to do so. Would you like the citations? Her calm legal knowledge clearly unnerves them. Reynolds' face flushes with anger. Listen, lady. I don't know what your game is, but you need to stop this now. His voice drops to a threatening whisper. Things happen in this neighborhood. Accidents. People get hurt. Thompson meets his gaze steadily, her camera still recording. Are you threatening a civilian, Officer Reynolds? That would be a violation of Department Policy Section 4.13, as well as state law regarding abuse of authority. Reynolds steps back, surprised she knows his name and the specific policy. Before he can respond, 2 more patrol cars arrive. Officers emerge, forming an intimidating circle around Thompson. "Is there a problem here?" Sergeant Walsh asks, though his tone makes clear he's not addressing Thompson. "She's harassing officers, filming us without consent," Benson claims. "Actually, consent isn't required when photographing public officials performing public duties," Thompson replies, unfazed by the growing police presence. "The courts have been quite clear on this issue." Walsh turns to her, voice cold. "I suggest you move along before we find something to charge you with." "Are you suggesting you would fabricate charges, Sergeant Walsh?" Thompson asks loudly enough for her camera's microphone to capture. "That would constitute serious misconduct." The officers exchange uncomfortable glances. This isn't going according to their usual script. Officer Rivera arrives in another patrol car, taking in the scene with visible concern. He approaches the group, positioning himself slightly apart from his colleagues. "Ma'am, is everything okay here?" he asks Thompson directly, breaking protocol by not consulting with the senior officers first. "Shut up, Rivera," Reynolds snaps. "She's being detained for questioning." "On what grounds?" Rivera asks, his rookie status not preventing his challenge. "What's the reasonable suspicion?" Reynolds turns on him. "You questioning me now? Know your place, probationer." The tension escalates until Thompson decides she has captured enough evidence. She lowers her camera but keeps it recording. "I believe I've observed enough for today," she says calmly. "Officers, Sergeant," she nods to each, deliberately using their names. "I'll be seeing you all very soon." What would you do if you were Captain Thompson? Seek immediate justice or plan a strategic response? Comment your thoughts. "I'll see you all very soon," Thompson tells them calmly as she walks away, leaving the officers unsettled by her confidence. Morning light streams through the windows of the 5th Precinct as officers gather for the change of command ceremony. The current captain's retirement has been scheduled for weeks, though rumors suggest the commissioner accelerated the timeline. Officers stand in formal rows, dress uniforms crisp, brass polished. Reynolds and Benson adjust their collars near the back, whispering about their neighborhood stalker. "Bet she files some bullshit complaint that goes nowhere," Reynolds snickers, straightening his badge. "Already took care of it," Benson replies with a smirk. "Barnes and IA owes me. Any complaint she files will disappear faster than our overtime reports." The precinct falls silent as Commissioner Wallace enters, his expression unusually grave. He approaches the podium without the customary pleasantries. "Officers of the 5th Precinct," Wallace begins, his voice carrying authority that demands attention. "Captain Harrison's retirement is effective immediately. The department thanks him for his years of service." Murmurs ripple through the room. The abruptness is unexpected. "Recent events have highlighted the need for new leadership and comprehensive reforms in this precinct," Wallace continues. "Effective immediately, I am installing a new commanding officer who will implement these changes." The side door opens. Every head turns. Captain Alexis Thompson walks in wearing her full dress uniform adorned with commendations and service medals. Her posture is military precise, her expression composed. The room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees as recognition dawns. In the back row, Reynolds and Benson freeze. The blood drains from their faces as the woman they forced to kneel in the rain now stands at the front of the room, 4 gold bars gleaming on her shoulders. "I present Captain Alexis Thompson," Wallace announces. "Her distinguished career includes military police service, federal oversight experience, and successful reform implementations in 3 major departments. She has my complete confidence and full authority." Thompson approaches the podium with measured steps. Her eyes scan the room, pausing briefly on each face involved in her detention. She notes their reactions, shock, fear, confusion, but her expression reveals nothing. "Thank you, Commissioner," she begins, her voice steady and authoritative. "I believe in the vital role law enforcement plays in community safety, but that role depends entirely on trust, integrity, and equal protection under the law. The room remains deathly silent as she continues. Starting today, this precinct will implement new body camera protocols. All interactions with the public will be recorded without exception. Officers will undergo bias training, de-escalation certification, and regular performance reviews focused on constitutional policing. She turns a page in her notes with deliberate slowness. Accountability will be paramount. Complaints will be investigated thoroughly and transparently. No exceptions, no matter the officer's rank or tenure. Thompson makes eye contact with Reynolds, then Benson, then Walsh. Each man seems to shrink under her gaze. Those who cannot or will not adapt to these standards will not remain on this force. She closes her portfolio with a snap that makes several officers flinch. Officers Reynolds, Benson, and Sergeant Walsh will report to my office immediately following this ceremony. Officer Rivera as well. The named officers exchange panicked glances. Rivera looks confused but resolute. After the ceremony concludes, Thompson enters her new office. She removes her dress jacket, carefully hanging it on a wooden coat stand. The movement reveals the dark bruises still visible on her wrists from the handcuffs. Reynolds, Benson, and Walsh enter first, standing uncomfortably at attention. Rivera follows, maintaining a noticeable distance from the others. Thompson sits behind her desk, opens a folder, and looks up at the men who assaulted her just days ago. 3 nights ago, she begins conversationally, as if discussing the weather, I was illegally detained, physically assaulted, and humiliated by officers of this precinct while conducting an observation assessment of the district. She turns the folder around, showing them photographs of her injuries. Close-ups of bruised wrists, the baton mark on her shoulder, her muddied, expensive suit. Following this incident, my hotel room was illegally searched. I received threatening text messages, and an unauthorized background check was run on my credentials. Reynolds swallows visibly. Benson stares at the floor. Walsh's face has turned ashen. Officer Rivera, Thompson addresses the rookie directly, you may be wondering why you're here. Yes, Captain, he answers, standing straighter. You're here because you attempted to de-escalate yesterday's confrontation. You questioned improper procedure. You showed the integrity these men lack. She gestures toward the others. You're being reassigned to lead our new community relations unit, effective immediately. You're dismissed. Rivera blinks in surprise, salutes, and exits. The door closes behind him with finality. Thompson rises slowly, walking around her desk to stand directly before the remaining officers. Despite being shorter than all 3 men, she somehow towers over them. I was recruited specifically for this precinct after serving on the Federal Law Enforcement Reform Task Force, she reveals. My detention was unplanned, but it provided first-hand evidence of exactly why I was brought here. She taps the folder containing her documentation. Every violation, every biased comment, every procedural failure has been recorded and verified. The illegal search of my room was captured on hotel security cameras I had enhanced. The threatening text has been traced to Officer Benson's personal phone. The men stand in stunned silence as she continues, her voice never rising, yet carrying unmistakable authority. You have exactly 1 hour to decide. Resign immediately or face full administrative charges and criminal prosecution for assault under color of authority. The officers' faces drain of all remaining color as they realize the woman they humiliated now holds their entire futures in her bruised hands. The 5th precinct transforms overnight. Officers arrive to find internal affairs investigators from the state level conducting interviews. Technology specialists install new body camera systems. Training coordinators set up mandatory sessions on constitutional policing and bias recognition. At the center of this whirlwind stands Captain Thompson, methodically dismantling decades of entrenched corruption with surgical precision. By noon, Sergeant Walsh has submitted his resignation. He cleans out his locker under the watchful eyes of IA officers, avoiding eye contact with colleagues. His police career is over, but the negotiated silence agreement he signs shields him from criminal charges in exchange for testimony against higher-ranking officers. Reynolds and Benson, however, refuse to resign. They arrive at the precinct flanked by union representatives, confident the blue wall will protect them as it always has. "Captain," the police union attorney begins when they enter Thompson's office, "these allegations are concerning, but my clients categorically deny any wrongdoing during a lawful detention of a suspicious person." Thompson doesn't look up from her paperwork. "Your clients have been suspended pending investigation. Their badges and service weapons should be surrendered immediately." "On what grounds?" the attorney demands. "This appears to be a personal vendetta." Now Thompson raises her eyes, her gaze steel. "On the grounds of excessive force, false imprisonment, filing false reports, conducting illegal searches, making terroristic threats, and civil rights violations." She slides a flash drive across the desk. "The evidence is extensive." The attorney picks up the drive cautiously. "We'll need time to review this. You have until the disciplinary hearing on Friday. 3 days. Thompson turns to Reynolds and Benson directly. "Unless you'd like to reconsider resignation." "This is bullshit," Reynolds spits. "It's our word against yours." Thompson allows herself the slightest smile. "Actually, it's your word against mine. The dash cam footage, my body camera, 6 civilian witnesses, and your own text messages, but we'll let the hearing committee decide." After they leave, Officer Rivera knocks tentatively on her door. "Captain, the community leaders are here for the meeting you scheduled." Thompson welcomes a diverse group representing various neighborhood associations. For the first time in precinct history, residents are invited to express their concerns directly to command staff. They speak of racial profiling, selective enforcement, harassment. Thompson takes notes, asks questions, listens. "This won't change overnight," she tells them honestly. "But it will change. You have my word." Across town, City Manager Greer receives an urgent call from the mayor. "Have you seen this?" the mayor demands. "Thompson's tearing apart the 5th Precinct. The union's threatening legal action against the city." "I'm handling it," Greer assures him, though anxiety edges his voice. He immediately schedules a meeting with Thompson. When they meet that afternoon, Greer doesn't bother with pleasantries. "Captain, while we appreciate your enthusiasm, this disruption is causing serious concerns. Perhaps a more gradual approach." Thompson interrupts by placing a thick binder on the table between them. This contains 43 documented cases of civil rights violations by 5th Precinct officers over the past 18 months, all buried, all representing potential lawsuits against the city. Greer stares at the binder. "The statute of limitations hasn't expired on any of them," Thompson continues. "One successful suit could cost taxpayers millions. 43 would bankrupt the city." "What do you want?" Greer asks quietly. "Your full support for comprehensive reforms, budget approval for training and equipment, and no interference with personnel decisions." Greer hesitates, then nods slowly. "You'll have it." By Thursday, Thompson's investigation has expanded. Electronic records reveal a pattern of evidence tampering in cases involving excessive force. The trail leads directly to Lieutenant Barnes in Internal Affairs and beyond him to the recently retired Captain Harrison. Commissioner Wallace reviews Thompson's findings with growing concern. "This is worse than we thought." "It usually is," Thompson replies. "The corruption's systemic. We need to consider criminal charges for several officers, including Harrison. The political fallout will be significant. The liability of doing nothing is greater." Meanwhile, community members who witnessed Thompson's detention begin coming forward with their own stories and evidence. Mrs. Chen, whose security cameras captured the entire incident from her front window, provides the footage to local journalist Sarah Winters. Winters begins connecting the dots between Thompson's detention and the sudden departmental overhaul. Her investigation uncovers dozens of similar incidents in Oakwood alone. Minorities detained without cause, subjected to excessive force, then charged with resisting arrest or disorderly conduct to justify the officer's actions. By Friday morning, her exposé runs in the local paper. New police captain experienced department's bias firsthand. The article includes stills from Mrs. Chen's security footage, showing Thompson forced to her knees in the rain. The images spread rapidly across social media, accompanied by calls for accountability. The disciplinary hearing room fills beyond capacity. Community members, officers, media representatives crowd the space. Reynolds and Benson arrive with their union attorneys, their earlier confidence now tinged with visible anxiety. Thompson presents the evidence methodically. She begins with her own detailed account, supported by photographs of her injuries. The dashcam footage plays next, clearly showing the officer's unprovoked aggression. Mrs. Chen's security camera footage provides an unobstructed view of Reynolds striking Thompson with his baton. The attorneys attempt procedural objections, questioning the admissibility of certain evidence, the chain of custody, Thompson's objectivity given her personal involvement. Each objection is overruled by the hearing committee, which includes newly appointed civilian oversight members. Then come the witnesses. Previous victims of Reynolds and Benson's misconduct testify one after another. A college student detained while walking home from the library. A delivery driver stopped 3 times in 1 week. An elderly man grabbed from his own front yard while gardening. The pattern becomes impossible to ignore or explain away. The officers' body cameras mysteriously malfunctioned during each incident. Their reports described aggressive behavior, contradicted by witness statements. Internal Affairs dismissed every complaint without investigation. As the evidence mounts, Reynolds and Benson watch their careers crumble in real time. Their attorneys pass increasingly desperate notes, suggesting new strategies, different arguments. But nothing can counter the overwhelming documentation Thompson has assembled. The hearing committee votes unanimously for termination. Additionally, they recommend criminal charges for civil rights violations, falsifying police reports, and witness intimidation. As they leave the hearing room in disgrace, Reynolds passes close to Thompson. "This isn't over," he mutters under his breath. "You've made enemies you don't even know about yet." Thompson meets his gaze evenly. "That's exactly the mindset that brought us here today, Mr. Reynolds. The difference is, you're no longer in a position to act on it." She watches them walk away, their badges and service weapons already surrendered, their authority stripped. Not from vengeance, but from necessity. The system can't function when those entrusted with power abuse it so blatantly. Thompson returns to her office where Commissioner Wallace waits with the mayor. "The union's threatening legal action," the mayor says without preamble. "Let them," Thompson responds calmly. "Our documentation is impeccable, and Officer Rivera has agreed to testify about the culture of misconduct he witnessed during his probationary period." The mayor studies her with newfound respect. "You've certainly made an impression, Captain, though not everyone's happy about these changes." "Reform isn't designed to make people happy," Thompson replies. "It's designed to make systems just." "This isn't the end," Thompson announces to the assembled reporters outside. "This is just the beginning of real accountability." 6 months pass. The 5th Precinct has transformed under Thompson's leadership. The physical space itself reflects the change walls that once displayed only officer commendations, now showcase community partnership achievements and citizen appreciation letters. Morning briefing finds Thompson addressing her officers, many of them new faces recruited for their commitment to ethical policing. "Our quarterly results show progress," she tells them, projecting statistics on the wall screen. "Excessive force complaints down 83%. Arrest rates down 12% while successful prosecutions are up 20%. Officers nod with professional satisfaction. These numbers represent more than statistics. They reflect a fundamental shift in approach. Quality of arrests over quantity, de-escalation over confrontation, community trust over fear. "Most significantly," Thompson continues, Response times have improved in all neighborhoods equally. No more prioritizing Oakwood over Riverside. Sergeant Rivera, recently promoted, leads the community engagement unit that has become the precinct's pride. His team develops innovative programs, citizen police academies taught in multiple languages, youth mentorship initiatives, regular community forums where officers listen more than they speak. The Coffee with a Cop program has been particularly successful, Rivera reports. We've had over 300 residents participate in the past month alone. In her office after the briefing, Thompson reviews applications for the recruitment program she established, scholarships for local residents interested in law enforcement careers, with emphasis on candidates from underrepresented communities. These 5 candidates all meet our criteria, her assistant notes. 2 are bilingual, 1 has a social work background. Schedule interviews for all of them, Thompson approves, and follow up with last month's recruits. Make sure they're receiving proper support at the academy. Across town, the city council meeting chamber fills with residents and media. Thompson takes the podium to present her 6-month assessment. The reforms implemented at the 5th Precinct demonstrate that constitutional policing and effective policing are not opposing concepts, she explains. In fact, they're inseparable. Council members who initially resisted her methods now cite the precinct's improved metrics with pride. The Budget Committee has unanimously approved funding for expanding the body camera program to all precincts. The most telling statistic, Thompson concludes, is that civilian cooperation with investigations has increased 47%. When communities trust their police, they become partners in public safety. The ripple effects spread beyond the 5th Precinct. Other captains throughout the department, initially skeptical, now consult Thompson about implementing similar reforms. Police academies request her training materials. Law enforcement journals publish case studies of the transformation. A brief montage illustrates the changing reality. Officers assisting elderly residents without condescension. De-escalation techniques successfully employed during a mental health crisis. Community members approaching patrol cars to offer information rather than avoiding police contact. Former skeptics become vocal supporters. Mrs. Chen, whose security camera footage helped expose Reynolds and Benson, now serves on the Civilian Oversight Committee. For the first time, she tells a community meeting, I feel like the police work for us, not against us. Even Officer Torres, initially resistant to Thompson's changes, now leads bias recognition training sessions. I didn't realize how many assumptions I was making on patrol, he admits to his colleagues. This approach actually makes our jobs easier, not harder. Thompson walks through the precinct, observing the transformation with cautious optimism. The culture is changing, but institutional reform is always fragile, always at risk of reversal without constant vigilance. Her phone rings the commissioner's office. Captain Thompson, her assistant calls out. Commissioner Wallace is on line 1. He says it's about your next assignment, something about the Central Precinct having similar issues. Thompson smiles slightly. Her work here is far from finished, but the model can now be replicated across the entire department. 1 year has passed since Thompson first walked through the doors of the 5th Precinct. She strolls along Oakwood's tree-lined streets, the same neighborhood where officers once forced her to her knees in the rain. Now, residents wave as she passes. Some stop to chat, sharing community updates or expressing gratitude for specific improvements. Captain Thompson, Mrs. Chen calls from her garden. The new youth center opens next week. Will you speak at the ceremony? I wouldn't miss it, Thompson promises with a genuine smile. She continues her walk, passing a small shopping mall where a familiar face catches her attention. Former Officer Benson, now wearing the uniform of a security guard, notices her at the same moment. His expression hardens with resentment, but he quickly averts his gaze, unwilling to meet her eyes. Thompson doesn't linger or gloat. His position isn't about personal victory. It's the natural consequence of his choices. She's heard Reynolds faced harsher consequences, serving probation for civil rights violations after the criminal investigation concluded. Several other former officers have similar fates. The system doesn't forgive those who betray their oath. At noon, Thompson chairs the monthly meeting of the Community Police Advisory Council, a diverse group of officers and civilian representatives that didn't exist a year ago. They gather around a conference table as equals, reviewing progress and ongoing challenges with candor. Response times in Riverdale still lag by about 3 minutes compared to other neighborhoods, a community advocate points out. "We've identified the staffing gap," Sergeant Rivera responds. "The new shift pattern should address it starting next month." The conversation continues, honest, sometimes tense, but consistently productive. Issues are raised not as accusations but as problems to solve together. This, Thompson reflects, represents the most significant change: the shift from adversarial to collaborative relationships. Later that afternoon, Thompson meets with the newest academy graduates assigned to her precinct. These young officers have never known the Fifth's toxic culture, having been trained under the reformed standards from the beginning. "Your badge carries both authority and responsibility," she tells them, her voice carrying the weight of personal experience. "How you use that authority defines not just your career, but the safety and trust of the communities you serve." She doesn't share the story of her own detention. That narrative has served its purpose and now belongs to history. Instead, she focuses on their future, on the department they're helping to build. "The hardest moments will test your commitment to justice over convenience, to protection over power," she continues. "Those moments define who you are as officers and as people." In her office that evening, Thompson reviews the quarterly performance reports. Crime statistics tell only part of the story. The qualitative metrics: increased witness cooperation, community engagement, officer retention, paint a more complete picture of a department transforming its relationship with the community. Her walls display photographs from community events, policy reform announcements, positive news coverage. Among them hangs a framed note from a teenage girl: "Thank you for making me feel safe in my neighborhood for the first time." Thompson touches the frame gently. This is why the difficult battles matter, not for policy manuals or statistical improvements, but for the lived reality of people who deserve both safety and dignity. As the setting sun casts long shadows across her office, Thompson reflects on the journey from humiliation in the rain to systemic transformation. The work remains unfinished. True reform is never complete, only sustained through constant vigilance and commitment. But the foundation has been laid for something better, something that honors the true meaning of protect and serve. If you found yourself invested in Captain Thompson's journey from victim to reformer, you'll love what's coming next on Beat Stories. Hit that like button if you believe in holding power accountable, no matter who wields it. Subscribe to Beat Stories for more compelling narratives that explore justice, redemption, and the courage to stand against systemic wrongs. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Beat Stories, where every tale has a pulse. See you in the next one.
This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of what happens when truth meets visibility. At Beat Stories, we believe exposure is the first step to transformation. Subscribe and stay tuned, because the next story might be yours.